What is going on, everybody? My name is Teddy Baldassarre, and in this video we're going to be joined by a really special guest. He has accumulated over 87 million views on his channel, has over 500,000 subscribers, and is one of the leading influencers in the world of hairstyling, and that is the Salon Guy. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics surrounding hair, entrepreneurship, life here on YouTube, and creating a channel. If you guys want to passively listen to this video just like a podcast, you can do that, but also in the description down below, I'll be linking to different parts of the video if you want to just jump into specific topics. But without further ado, guys, let's jump into the video. All right, guys, I am really honored to be joined by Steven, the Salon Guy here. So Steven, thank you so much for joining the channel here.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited, and we're going to talk. I'm open to talking about anything from business to hair stuff to whatever you want to talk about. So thanks for having me on, man.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Steven. So there is more to you than just hairstyling. So I do want to talk about that, but I think we first have to address, what you do as an individual. So I'm kind of feel bad because I have only became aware of your channel probably in the last few months. So I will say this: I followed a lot of different hairstyling channels on the line, and one thing that I can say about you is I think you know your stuff more than anybody else that I've followed so far. So I would just love to see how 20 years you're in this industry. You've started a brand line for yourself, a hair care line, all different products. How did this all happen? Why hair?
Well, it's interesting. When I got out of high school, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And down the street from me, there was a hair salon and a girl who worked there who, from a distance, I thought was pretty hot, to be honest with you. And back then, it wasn't considered stalking. You know what I mean? So every time I go by, I'd see that girl in the salon from a distance. I'm like, I want to meet that girl, but I didn't know what to do. So I was like, you know what? I need a job. I just graduated high school, and I'm not going to college right now. I'm taking time off. I want to go in there and get a job. Mostly to meet her. So I went in, and I think when I saw her, we both realized two things. I realized she was about 30 years older than I was, and she realized, boy, this is just a kid. So, but that's what introduced me into the salon industry, was thinking a girl was pretty, and realizing I could actually work in this industry. I didn't have any interest in doing hair. I just needed a job, and they introduced me to the whole thing. Like, you can go to school for this, and I'm like, really? At the time, I was like 18 years old. I was a nightclub DJ. I was DJing in one of the biggest nightclubs in New York City. I was just all about the party scene. I was just really into. I didn't have a solid path set for myself because I was so young, and I decided to go to beauty school, and that's kind of how the whole thing started for me. And then getting to, you mentioned the product line and all this other stuff. Like, that has just been a long, long journey. We're talking like, 20-something years ago, 1992 is when I graduated high school. So I'm not trying to date myself, but 92, 94, I went to cosmetology school, worked at that salon part-time, and then it's just been like a long journey of, trying different jobs, leaving the career industry completely, going to something different, coming back into it. And, the Salon Guy was born about probably 9.5 years ago, and, that's really... And that's a whole story in itself,
So what's that story? How did it all start?
All right. Well, sometimes a lot of things stem from like people's stories and tragedies. I was adopted at a very young age, and my mother, who was a widow, rest her soul, she passed away, right? And this was a woman who basically raised me and adopted me from a very, very young age. I was like a baby. And my whole life was kind of dedicated towards to being there for her and helping her and stuff like that, because she was like in her late 80s when she passed. So when she passed away, I was like, man. But I was like, I don't want to give up. I want to do something in her memory. I want to do something that's gonna like do something that's more for me, and not focus on working for somebody else the whole time and promoting someone else. I'm like, I need to focus on Steven. What do I do? So I went onto YouTube. And I typed in motivational speeches, and I came across someone named Gary Vaynerchuk, which hopefully you know who he is, and a lot of people watching. And the way he presented himself and the way he spoke just was so forward and in my face. I was like, this guy, like, I'm so pumped up in this guy. Learned he had the book Crush It, which I read, and that literally is what put me on the path to step 1, buy a video camera, step 2, start putting yourself out there, step 3, like, all these things I followed step by step. building, a YouTube channel and a Facebook page and trying to get likes. And, I had a goal of one person. I was like, if I can inspire one person with putting out content, and the content that I put out when I first started my YouTube channel was not haircutting stuff. It was like motivational stuff for people in the salon industry. Like how to find the right salon to work at, or like how to give great customer service, or how to sell retail. Until somebody was like, do you cut hair? We want to see you cut hair. I'm like, really? Who wants to watch me cut hair on the internet? You know what I mean? So that really is what got me started on, becoming the salon guy and then cutting hair on the internet. I was probably one of the first guys in the world to start, or at least I know of, to start putting out, haircutting content as a professional on the internet. And it just, after reading Crush It and spending about 3 or 4 years having no idea how to make any money and what the Salon Guy was, what blogging was, it was all so new to me. Finally, I started to catch on to how I can turn the Salon Guy into a business, which is what really I am now. Is I'm a full-fledged entrepreneur. I don't even call myself a YouTuber. I'm like an influencer. I'm an entrepreneur. You mentioned watching a lot of other guys. The difference between myself and a lot of the other people who talk about hair is they're not professionals. The only reason, and people can probably hate me for this, I don't care, but like the only reason a lot of these people are very popular is because they have good looks, they have good hair, and that's it. And they have maybe okay personalities. I mean, a lot of these people have become very famous by getting an audience in like the Middle East or in Asia, and all of a sudden they're getting worshipped. Oh, let me start a hair product line because everybody worships me. Okay. And then they have rich friends or rich families. I mean, that's great for them. I wish them all the best, but I'm a professional and I've dedicated my whole life to the industry. So my legacy is a little bit different. I've got a lot of the credentials of what I've built up to, everything I've done has led up to this point where you can go down a list and say, hey, so-and-so YouTuber, what have you done? I went to college and I work part-time at like Starbucks, which is cool, but that's totally awesome. That's your path. But I think everyone's legacy is really important when it comes down to it. When it really have to be, put on the spot of like, okay, who are you? I've done a lot of things that are super high pressure. The salon guy, I wasn't just about putting YouTube hair videos. I became, and I wanted to be like the Ryan Seacrest of the salon industry. Being the personality, going to the Oscars or Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week for 8 seasons and interviewing dozens of celebrities and being on national television and being on like the #1 reality show and being in magazines. There's a whole like celebrity side of me that I spent so much time building up because I wanted to attach something to me that was bigger than me. It's not just about me. I'm like, the salon guy is only here right now. How do I get to the next level? Okay, attach myself to people that are much bigger, like TV and celebrities. So, the hair product line, yes. My YouTube channel I've got, I work with companies and brands that hire me now for my expertise to create content with them. I'm in Gary Vaynerchuk's new book, Crushing It. And, it's been a long, long journey of just, they say it's lonely at the top. I say it's lonely at the middle. You know what I mean? I'm at the middle right now. Like I went from some serious lows to work myself up to now I'm at a good point right now. And now I'm just starting to finally get to that point where I can, earn a living and I'm 100% on my own. And this is just the beginning for me, so I know I'm rambling on and on, but that's really my story, man.
I mean, that's what an interview is for, Steven. So I want you to talk. So you brought up a really good point in that spiel there. I think there is a level of discretion that, just viewers on YouTube need to have when they're learning about anything and who is who's sending out the message. So with you, you have this track record working in this industry for years and years. What would you say to somebody, so when they're watching content online, what do they need to be aware of when they're looking at somebody's hair, they're thinking about somebody's product? What are the things that they need to consider? Because I think one thing that I always think about is they see somebody and think, oh, that looks really great with their hair, not thinking about my hair is completely different. My body's different. It's going to react to that product differently. So how can somebody watching that infer whether or not that product's worth them or whether that actual individual that's sending out the message is actually somebody of value that I should value their opinion of?
Yes, that's a great point. And I think about this often. And a lot of times it stems from, one, the audience, right? Like I mentioned, a lot of people in like the Middle East or like in Asia, they worship a lot of these people on YouTube because they all want their hair to look like that. They want to look Americanized. They want to have the perfect slick back hair. So they kind of idolize us here, people in the States. People like you would probably get worshipped easily. You know what I mean? You have the great hair, great look. So not for nothing, but like, you know, they want to see that. So I think it depends on the audience. A lot of times, depending on the marketplace, all they might need is a guy with nice hair, and whatever he says goes. And they just might listen to it, be like, oh, he's the expert, he has nice hair, and I worship him. Sometimes that's all it takes. But on the flip side, when you've got someone like myself and other people who actually know what the hell they're talking about, so you've got the professional marketplace, and you've got like this lingering like beauty guru or hair guru marketplace, who they say these people come out and literally say, oh, I focus my channels basically about hair content. Or they do lifestyle. Everyone's a lifestyle guy or a fitness guy, whatever, hair person. It's like, that's what they ride off of because that's what they do. They post videos about fashion, about hair, because they have nice hair. And like, that's kind of it. So they're known for that. So people get kind of wrapped into it easily. It's like seeing someone who's in phenomenal shape and he's like, oh, I'm a nutritionist or I'm a personal trainer. People are going to trust him because, oh, he's got the looks. I don't know why people trust me, I'll be honest with you. But no, seriously, I think it comes down to the actual way the information is presented. So I've listened to a lot of other content creators that aren't professional talk about hair stuff. And I sometimes think to myself, these people have no idea what they're talking about. And it's not to say anything bad about them, because that's just, they think what they were expressing what they think. And that's cool, and people want to learn from it and stuff, that's awesome. But for someone who spent not only years, but tens of thousands of dollars, even probably hundreds, into this industry and my career, this is like been my life. You can't step in my way and try to take that away from me and other professionals in the salon industry. Now, don't get me wrong. There's people who've been doing hair for 20-something years who have no idea what they're talking about. I mean, I've seen it myself. But it's hard when you're kind of going up against people who aren't even professionals, and the only reason they talk about hair stuff is because they have nice hair and good looks. That's simply it. And I would say it comes down to what the market is, what people really think of the individual. If you're an Apple guy, are you an Apple guy because of Steve Jobs? Are you a big Facebook fan because you like Zuckerberg? Are you like, you know, a big Bill Gates guy? It's why you're a PC guy. It all depends on like what you believe in, what's behind the brand. That's why I'm saying it comes back to me. People can literally say, if they say, I hate Steven, but I have to give it to him. He's a 20-year professional. He actually cuts hair on his channel. He's not just talking about products. So it really depends on the individual and the audience that's watching. So
yeah. So what are some, because I think there's so many mistakes guys make, and with all that misinformation out there, what are the biggest mistakes guys make when they're styling their hair?
I mean, I don't say people are really making mistakes, because the thing is I have clients of mine that actually do their hair better than I can do it. And when they blow dry it, they're like, no, I have my own thing that I do. I'm like, okay, you do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? Because I admit I might not be able to get it as good as you can. Go for it. Go nuts. So I don't think people realize that we're doing it wrong. Everyone's hair type is different. You know, everyone's hair has to be treated differently. So whether you have fine hair, or thick hair, if it's dense, if it's thin, I mean, there's all different things that you have to really take into consideration, and that's where the products come in. So, you know, there's a lot of controversy about heat, you know, about like blow drying, about what tools to use, about like, you know, how they're styling their hair from like where they apply the products to, you know, and again, it's whatever works for them. But like, I know what I do as a professional when I'm working on a client. That's like the typical kind of procedure that I follow. And then that's the advice that I give other clients. Like when I'm running, because I see men and women as clients. So if I'm working on a female client, when I'm applying product to their hair, I make sure I really work it in. And when I put it in their hair, I really work down all the way from like scalp to ends, depending on the product I'm using. But say I'm using like a defrizzing serum, I'll just put a little of my hand, work it through, and really start on the ends and really start to work it through the hair. And I'll spend like 5 or 10 minutes just working product into the hair. Then I'll comb the product through the hair. So even distribution is really important too. So there's a lot of technical things that I do as a stylist that I'm not really seeing or hearing from the other people that are giving hair advice that aren't professionals. And again, that's not a bad thing, but maybe they just weren't, you know, I can't take that away from them or other people because they're not professionals. So, you know, I think a lot of the controversy and stuff is like, well, I don't know if that's really true. You know, like does heat damage hair? I mean, heat can damage hair if you use heat improperly. But I use my blow dryer on high settings, full heat all the time. But the only way you create damage is if you have it. It's like an iron. If you have an iron on your shirt for too long, guess what? It's going to start smoking, and the damn thing's going to catch on fire. So, you know, that's a real big thing too. It's like heat. You know, it can damage your hair, yes, if used improperly. So don't be afraid of heat. I use heat all the time on stuff. You know, or the cold air thing is cold hair. What does cold air do? Well, cold air, it smooths the cuticle down, so it actually might help defrizz, but it also helps, I'd say, kind of flatten the hair because it makes it a little bit smoother. So I don't really use cold air at all unless I'm working on a client where I'm really trying to get the hair super smooth and defrizzed and like super straight, you know, and that's after I use a lot of the heat. So there's a lot of stuff about that too. You know, there's pre-stylers, there's post-stylers, there's all sorts of things that, like, you know, a lot of people even understand what a pre-styler is. A pre-styler, you know, a lot of people use post-styling products as pre-stylers. And I'm like, well, you know, which is fine. If it works for you, that's cool. But like in my product line, I actually have products that are just designed for pre-styling. Like I have one actually called Pre-Style, and it's like a gel mousse. It's strictly designed to put in your hair before you blow dry it, and then you blow dry your hair, and it supports it. Then you put on the finishing product. So that's just like old school hairdressing. There's like the pre-styling product and then the finishing product. You know, so that's it for that.
So are there any? You mentioned, because I always hear heat's so bad for your hair. You know, if you overuse it, your hair's gonna like literally fall out. It's like fear tactics when it comes to it. Are there like other myths that you hear all the time that people throw around about hair that are completely untrue?
Well, yeah, that one, the cold air one. Believe it or not, I think there's a lot of hair myths, like stuff with like eggs, you know, mixing up like an omelet to put on your hair if that's going to be a better conditioner. Like, I mean, there's all these like do-it-yourself hair masks, do-it-yourself sea salt sprays, like, you know, beer. You could put like beer on your hair for conditioning and all sorts. I mean, there's so many like wild things. You know, if it works, like, I guess I'm not going to challenge it, but, you know, I think I'm very simplistic when it comes to hair stuff. You know, if someone's hair is damaged, you know, sometimes like the heat could make it worse. Sometimes wearing hats or ponytails makes things worse. Like I see a lot of clients with a lot of breakage, especially blondes. I'm like, well, what are you doing? They're like, oh, I put my hair back. And I'm like, well, you know, they're already they're highlighted so heavily, so the hair is a lot more fragile. They're wearing hats all the time. You know, so they're actually doing more damage to the hair by wearing accessories and pulling their hair back all the time. And, you know, some people might not even know that. It's not necessarily a myth, but they just might not be educated on things that could damage their hair. So, you know, I just think there's a lot of interesting things out there, you know?
Mm-hmm. So there's so many products out there. I like buying new products like all the time, like trying them out. I think it's fun. So are there any products for you as somebody that's been in the industry for a while that you just don't like? Is there like a brand, whether it's like for just like integrity purposes, like how like they test it on like animals or something like that, or if it's just like a horrible product? Are there any out there that you just stay away from and wouldn't recommend clients use at all?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not going to really name names. And to be honest with you, since I started my own stuff, like nothing else exists to me at this point. You know, it's like each one of my products has a specific need based off of me as a stylist, you know? So it's like, I rarely ever use other stuff, man. Now I have worked with other brands that other people are overhyped about that I'm like, you know, all right. You know what I mean? Like, not the greatest, to be honest with you. I'm not going to name names. It's not fair. But there are product lines that I have used that there's so much hype around that I think they're just mediocre and even sometimes not even that great. So yes, they do exist. I have a really strong focus on my own stuff right now, especially with some more of the new boutique products I'm coming out with, and I have launched recently that I think are really, really luxurious, super high end, and they're doing well. You know, I'm trying marketing strategies to try to get them out. So that's the thing about being an entrepreneur is like having the mindset of like what's going to work. You know, it's very easy to have a popular YouTube channel and have nice hair, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to have a hair product. Because that's happening every 5 minutes. You know, there's like professionals that are not even professionals, there's YouTubers, they're starting products and they have no knowledge. And sometimes I don't mean to sound like I'm just bashing people nonstop, because I'm not trying to do that. But when you, like you asked a question before, how do people know? When you listen to how someone presents a product, to me, as someone who actually really presents products, you just see the difference night and day. You know, if someone says, "Oh, I have a hair product now, and it's good for thick hair, and it's like applies easily, and yeah, it's good. Check it out." That's like most of the time what I hear. So when I hear that, I'm like, "Where's your passion? Why did you even start a hair product line?" No one talks about the legacy, like I mentioned. So I'm all about the legacy. I'm all about, like, why did you start? How are you here? What did you do to get to this point? Why are you even starting a hair product line if you're not a professional? Like, tell me your story, and I'll totally buy into the story if you have one. Most don't have a story. I hate to say it, but most of them don't. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So what did you learn in developing a product line? I mean, you have how many products out right now?
It's like over 20, I think.
Yeah. I'm looking at your site. I mean, I need to try out more, and maybe we can talk after the interview about, maybe some products that you'd recommend for me.
Yeah.
But what did you learn in this process? Because I think I'm intrigued at the fact that you were able to develop a product line. What surprised you going through that?
Well, the amount of money, one. So anyone who's starting, there's a lot of different things. So me as a professional, like, I've worked with major brands, and these guys have like hundreds of millions of dollars. They have their own in-house factories and labs and all sorts of stuff. And sometimes they farm stuff out to chemists, which I've seen before, which is fine. But I've learned, a lot about the financial part of it, the legal part of things. There's a big difference between the home brewing, which is like very common now, like making products in your kitchen. I'm like, I don't know if I'd trust someone making their stuff in their kitchen. And I've tried some homebrewed stuff before, and as a professional, I'm like, it doesn't even compare to like professional stuff. You know what I mean? Not to say it's a bad product, but for me, knowing what I'm looking for and how I want the hair to react and this and that, I'm like, thank you. I'm like, it doesn't even come close, But they're getting better and better, and I know there are some heavy hitter home brewing people, and more power to them. But I've learned when dealing with stuff that has to get approved by like the FDA, and I have trademarks on my stuff. We're talking tens and tens of thousands of dollars of just legal stuff, setting up of stuff, like R&D. The process though is fun. Like, you try out products, you can have them like readjusted, or you can have make tweaks to them if you want, or just don't even use them at all. I mean, I've been through a bunch of duds that I'm like, I'm not going to come out with this. It's bad, But the journey is just really understanding why you want to come out with a product and what do you want it to do, and fulfilling a need that people want for their hair. So, but yeah, it's really what it comes down to, man. It's just very expensive. That's what
I believe it. I mean, anything that's great takes time. It takes assets. It takes a lot of willpower to make it happen. So no surprise there. How long did that process take? So you had an idea. I want to create my first product. And what was your first product?
Yeah. So about 3.5, almost 4 years ago. Longer than that. About probably 6 years ago. I was looking up manufacturers, contacting manufacturers, and a lot of them want, you have to order, 10,000 units, and it's like going to cost $90,000 or $100,000 a product. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? So I found a guy in New Jersey who, we decided to talk, and I went down to his warehouse, and he had a little lab in there where he actually made products from. And he was going to actually invest in me to like team up with me to create some products and launch them. And I was like, cool. So I literally had a shampoo and conditioner that was made right in front of me by just pouring ingredients in, like, throw a little this or that. And I remember one time I said to him, like, this, like, I had tested it, and I'm like, something's not right about the conditioner. And I brought it back, and he's like, okay, let's add a little more of this. And all of a sudden it worked better, The process, I respected the process of the developing, of the testing of it. And then unfortunately, after I was ready to go, he got cold feet and then said, you know what, I'm not going to do this. It's too much of a risk. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I spent a year with you, hoping for this, and now you're going to back out? I'm like, oh. So then I gave up. I was like, that's it, I'm done. Then I realized a year later when everyone on YouTube kept asking me, what products you're using, what products? I'm like, I'm so tired of promoting other people's products. I need my own stuff. So went through the process again, contacting manufacturers, and then I'm on like my third manufacturer now that is working a lot more exclusively with me, because a lot of these manufacturers make products for like so many big brands. They just can't really say who because they're under contract and NDAs and stuff like that. But like, so there's a lot of companies, these big labs and stuff, that they make a lot of stuff for professional hair companies. And that's great. They have really high-end chemists. They have the money to have great ingredients. I think that's what really makes it stand apart from the home brewed stuff. It has to be all FDA approved and everything. It's a whole process to it. But right now, I'd say I'm most proud with what I'm working on right now and what I'm coming out with right now. So, but yeah, the process, I think I'm actually a little obsessed with it, man. I'm obsessed with...
You need to be. That's that Gary Vee mentality right there, I feel like.
I'm obsessed with building my own brand. That's it. Like, I don't spend money on a lot of splurge and this and that, but the one thing I do spend most money on is probably myself, my business, manufacturing and things like that. So
awesome. So you mentioned that you have some exciting things coming out. What are those things? What are you working on?
Well, I just launched a dog shampoo called Woof, which is I'm good with names, man.
That branding.
I'm a hardcore brand name guy, So I've got a dog shampoo called Woof, which literally has been tested. I sent this out, they sent me like samples, and I put them in little jars and sent them to people who were hardcore dog fanatics. Like, oh, I have 3 dogs and my dogs are like my kids. So I found all those people I knew and had them test it, and they were like, dude, this stuff is the best I've ever used. And that gave me the green light to go forward with it. And then I had it launched, and now it's available, and I've been just sending it out to big, some dog people and having them test it. And I'm like, just leave reviews on my website, and they're just like, dude, this is the best shampoo I've ever used, from dog lovers and stuff and dog owners. So that's one that I'm really passionate about. I have a new one called Suds, which is a children's 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, which I'm really happy about. On the front of the bottle, it's actually a picture of me as a baby that we had sketched in and everything by my graphic designer, Lenny, who did it, and Robin, she helped too. So if you look at it, actually, I have one right here. This is actually an old version, but that picture right there is of me as a baby. I was a cute baby. I don't know what happened, but I was a cute baby.
Look at all that hair.
That's right. So I have blonde hair, and it's called Suds. And see the way it's packaged right there, the lettering. So very fun, really really high end, good stuff. I've got 2 candles which are really fun. I have kind of a product that's been going somewhat viral, I guess. Clutch, which it sells out almost weekly. And then Clutch XL, which I just launched, which is a stronger version of that. And I'm working on a new hair paste right now, and a new shampoo and conditioner that it's some government level stuff, man. This shampoo and conditioner, from the ingredients to the technology in it, I was tempted to call it the healthiest shampoo. This stuff is going to be unreal. So I'm working on that right now. Yep.
Awesome. You're staying busy.
I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you the real deal. I literally get up about 6 o'clock every morning, and I get to bed on average about 12:30 to 1 a.m. every night. And being an entrepreneur is not glamorous. It's a lot of sacrifice. Now, I used to be a nightclub DJ, Mr. Social, and having fun and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and I was living it up, man. But I decided that I'm not going to become successful in my own way of building something tangible and a legit business by hanging out at bars and clubs 5 nights a week. So I made a lot of sacrifices where I gave up, some friends and just what I do, and I'm just I've become a loner. But it's a lonely lifestyle, man. Unless you're married or you have a whatever your the support system you have. If you have that, that's cool. But like, I'm doing this all on my own. I have a great team of people with me, but you know, I'm a self-driven solo kind of guy, you know?
That resonates with me as well. I mean, I'm wired the same way. You know, starting this channel, I mean, I work full time as well, and at night, this is just what I work on. You know, it's a lot of work, and you know, my schedule has just been packed as well. So I kind of want you to elaborate a little bit more. I've done an interview in the past. You know, Gary V inspired. The last guy I interviewed, he was in the watch industry. It was really interesting how you guys kind of have some overlapping interests, and I think it overlaps with mine as well. But could you talk a little bit about that plunge you have to make as an entrepreneur, like the part that's not sexy, that we often just glamorize all the time? What's happening in the background? What happened in the background for you? You know, what has happened over the last, 5 to 7 years as you've really started going at it, and just describe that experience for people.
Okay. And before I answer that, Teddy, are you a finance guy? You look like a finance guy.
I mean, I took a little finance in college. I was in entrepreneurship.
Okay.
I studied entrepreneurship in college.
All right, great. So, I think it comes down to the individual of what they have inside them. Something has to resonate from somewhere. And a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of very successful people have all had a serious low. Okay. My low was when my mother passed away. But if you look at like Diddy and like 50 Cent and like Tony Robbins, a lot of them were either like homeless or broke or some major tragedy happened. And, I've been promoting the lowest of your lows determines the height of your success. So if you've gone that far down, like if you've been in like trouble where you have oh, I have a bill to pay of like $1,000 by tomorrow and I have, no money to my name. Like that's the real deal fear of stuff. When you have those lows where you feel like everything's about to end, that means you can come up that much higher if you get yourself out of it. If you let yourself stay in that low, but most entrepreneurs have that mindset of like, you know what, I'm not going to stay down there. I'm going to climb my way up to the top. And even if it's not the top, it's better to be higher than being way down low. So I think it's the mindset of like what drives you and where your source of inspiration comes from. Like me, like I said, I started from when my mother passed away, but I'm also very, religious and powerful as far as my mindset. Like I pray every day. I have this energy that like, another big takeaway is I used to ask why all the time. Like if I didn't get something, I'd be like, well, why not? And why? I'm so like, it would drive me crazy until somebody, a very wise person said to me, he goes, stop asking why and start saying thank you. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, start saying thank you to everything that happens to you. I'm like, what about like the bad stuff? Doesn't matter. It's meant to be. You can't control what happens in your life. Like, it's destined to happen and you can't control it. So just be thankful for anything. I'm like, this guy's nuts. Until it started working. Until I stopped asking why. Until I opened my spirit, my mind up to anything, letting anything happen to me. And to be honest with you, mostly only good stuff happens to me. That's it. Like nothing bad happens. If I don't get something or I get a no, I'm just like, all right, whatever. Like it's meant to be. On to the next thing. And having that mindset of like nothing's going to bring you down and understanding that things happen for a reason, that's like half the battle, probably more than half the battle. And I left the industry that I was in, the beauty industry. I left for about 6.5 years, and I went through a series of different types of training that was instilled in me that made me a specific type of person. That I was like, nothing's going to make me stand down or get in my way, and it really just depends on what your background is, man. And being okay with making sacrifices, and being okay with being a little more of a loner. And just and everybody has to have that mindset. Like some people are born to be entrepreneurs and some aren't. I wasn't born to be. And there's times where I do envy because I have like a lot of clients that are like CEOs and CFOs and CMOs of all these like VPs of sales, these massive, massive companies that I see privately. And I'm like, man, I envy you. You have like making the 600 to a million, 1.5 a year, and you're getting the bonuses and you've got the paid vacation, you got the family. I envy you. And they're like, yeah, I don't mind it, but I'll tell you one thing, you know, at the end of the day, I'm working for somebody else. Like, you have your own thing going. You're doing this all for you. And I'm like, that's true, you know, but it depends on what each person wants. Not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur, man. So you have to be okay with being down a lot. You have to be okay with being a more loner, giving up a lot of things. But the rewards are seeing you grow, seeing yourself grow, which this is what I've been doing for the last 9.5 years. And that's 9.5 years on top of, you know, the overall 20 that I put in. So it's like, you know, I'm an OG, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've been at this YouTube thing for 7 years. And when you said earlier that you were one of the first people to do this, you actually were. And that's kind of a crazy thing to think about. You're one of the first people to start making videos about hair online. Like, that's remarkable to me, out of all the people in the world. And I mean, I don't think we should sell you short too. If our audience doesn't know, I mean, you have 500,000 subscribers, like 87 million views the last time I checked. So I mean, you've done a lot, man. It's fantastic. So jumping back to hair, I think another thing to think about as a guy, for me, is like, I had no idea what I was doing when I first started out. When I started styling my hair, I knew the kind of look I wanted, but I didn't know what product was going to get me there. So could you maybe just explain just the basic products, like pomades, clays, and like what effect it has on your hair? I remember when I started using a pomade, thinking it's going to be give me this like matte finish, and I look in the mirror, I'm like, what's going on? So can you just kind of just give a baseline, brief understanding for people that may have no idea what a product's going to do to their hair?
Yeah, that's great, man. That's good that you asked that. So most people revert back to like, oh, gel. The first thing that comes to their mind is hair gel. Hair gel is going to give you more of a wet look, you know, something for there's different variations of gels. There's like the rock hard gel that just like you put in your hair, it stays like it's looking wet, like a slick back type look, but it gets extremely firm and sometimes it gets a little flaky depending on the product. So a gel is definitely designed for somebody who wants, you know, could be anywhere from a light hold to a very strong hold, to give it like a firm type slick look, but it looks like there's hair product in it. That's usually what gel does. It's just a good finishing product to make your hair look like there's something in it, and it varies on the type of hold. Pomades aren't really, at least when I first started using pomades, weren't really designed to hold a lot. They were just like really heavy, somewhat greasy or oily, give you a lot of shine, and like it had its own purpose. If you want shiny, slick back hair, use a pomade. You know, then you've got like a paste. A paste is definitely designed to give you kind of like a little more pliability, a little texture. Most of them are designed to give you somewhat of a matte finish, sometimes a little natural shine. A paste is something that I feel is best used on dry hair. When you scoop it out, you put it in your hands, and when your hair is fully dry, then you work the paste in as like a finishing product. So I use paste mostly as finishing products. A pomade, a finishing product. A gel could be a pre-styler, but most of the time it's a finishing product. A clay is more of a modern type textured product that has a little bit of somewhat of a grit to it at times. It's very creamy and then transforms into something a lot more sticky and tacky. That works great on dry hair as well. It's a great finishing product. You can use it on wet hair if you want, like, you know, again, a slick back look, but it has a heavier kind of texture to it that when it's applied to the hair, it's either going to give you stronger hold, it's going to give you a little bit of pliability, but it's kind of like you put it in your hair and just kind of leave it for the most part. Waxes are very, very kind of waxy and sometimes hard to get out of the hair. I'm not a huge fan of waxes, so to speak, if it's just like a pure wax, because it just, to me, it ends up getting too oily and kind of just waxy in the hair. It's very, very hard to get out. A mousse is usually designed for a pre-styling product, or if somebody has like kind of wavy or curly hair, they want something like a natural hold. They want something that's going to give them volume when they're blow drying their hair as a pre-styler. Mousses are good for that. You've got like, what else is there? I think that's pretty much it. I mean, hairsprays are mostly for finishing products. You know, sea salt sprays. I have a sea salt spray. It's really good to give texture to the hair. Like when you come out of the ocean, your hair feels like it just got like that perfect volume, that perfect texture. Like, oh my God, that's really what sea salt sprays are designed to do, is give you like a little bit of a light, textured feel to your hair as it dries. It's good for letting air dry. What else do we have? I think that's, powders. Powders are becoming great now. I think they're great for totally dry hair, because when you dab the powder in, it kind of makes the hair strands come together and kind of lock in place, and they form a little more unity when you're styling. So instead of separating, because sometimes a gel or a certain product will separate your hair, something like a powder actually pulls it together, where it actually makes it look a little bit thicker. So that dry shampoos are becoming big. Dry shampoos are great for, like, you're on day 3 and your hair's kind of gross, but you're like, I don't want to wash it. Depending on the dry shampoo, it kind of sucks out those oils, maybe the impurities in your hair you don't want, or the scents that you may not want in your hair from being out or whatever. So dry shampoos are kind of becoming a big thing as well. I mean, see, I could just talk about it, dude.
You just listed off a dozen products. I think that's a great overview. That's fantastic.
That's just being a professional. And
that's 20 years of experience right there. That's what that is.
Yeah. Pretty much.
So just kind of go one more step. One thing for me, I would always make like mistakes, but are there like just quick tips that guys can have? I want to focus mostly because people that follow me are mostly, it's a male audience.
Yes.
And I think the level of understanding most guys have when it comes to their hair is pretty low, generally. So are there just some additional tips? One that I always throw out there is like how frequently you're washing your hair. That was a big one for me. I would wash my hair like every day, and I was like, that was terrible for my hair. So there are just some other things that guys tend to do like every day, or just some tips that they should be aware of that might help them in styling their hair, just kind of going forward and taking care of it.
Yeah. So let's start with shampooing. So like, I would say every 2 to 3 days, you're okay with washing your hair. If you wash your hair every single day, is it going to damage your hair? No, if you're using good stuff. Sometimes people always want to know, how do I get my hair to grow faster? I've noticed that if your hair is a little more on the dirty side, or you don't wash it as often, it actually grows a little quicker. I don't know what it is. I think the oils, the natural oils on your scalp, help produce faster, stronger hair growth. I've just seen it. If you wash it too often, you could get a dry scalp, maybe, not necessarily. So washing your hair every day is fine. It just depends on your needs. It depends on how you want your hair to feel. If you want that clean, squeaky feeling hair every single day, then wash it every day. If it doesn't mean your hair's going to fall out, doesn't mean anything's going to happen. But you can, there's certain over-the-counter products that aren't really the greatest for your hair. They have strong, chemicals, and they're not really the best. So nowadays, a lot more shampoos are made with different sulfate alternatives. So everyone freaked out over sulfates. Oh, it's going to damage, blah, blah. Sulfates are actually is what's needed to sud the hair, to create the suds to clean your hair. So sulfates aren't necessarily a horrible thing, but there's different alternatives of sulfates that actually are safer and better for your hair, so to speak. I would say play around with your hair and experiment with different hairstyles. So a lot of times I get questions like, I'm growing my hair out, it looks horrible, what do I do? That's where you experiment with different types of products. So if you're a guy who parts your hair inside all the way over like this, you just have side part all the time, it's this way, try parting it on the other side. Change it up a little bit. If you're somebody who has your hair's always down and flat or something, try spiking it up and making a little bit more of a textured type look. Change your hairstyle. That's the one thing that most guys don't do, is they're just so locked in on what they have. Experiment with different products. Maybe one day have a severe slick look, something a little more formal. Do that. A hair cutting. People always want to know, how often should I get my hair cut? It depends on you. Hair grows 3/4 of an inch to an inch a month or so. So, cutting your hair all the time, will that make it grow faster? Not necessarily. But you think about it, the hair grows from the scalp, not at the ends. So by cutting the ends, it's not going to make your hair grow faster because the ends are not at the scalp. The hair grows from the scalp out. By cutting the ends of your hair, it's going to just help it look a little bit healthier for the most part, right? Because you're cutting the very ends, the tips of the hair. So if you do that, it just keeps it healthier looking. It's like if you don't trim your nails, after a while, your nails are going to look ratchet as hell, So you want to make sure you're just kind of maintaining it, just like anything else you would do, any other type of grooming or things like that. You just want to maintain it so that your hair looks the best. I'm trying to think what else is. Another thing when going to a stylist, this is a big one too, or a barber. Like I get a lot of questions. What do I ask him? What do right? What do I ask my barber? Or I like so and so's haircut. Like, what do I tell him? There's something called Google and the cell phone. Go on Google, take a screenshot of that photo. Literally, you can do a screenshot just by pressing 2 buttons on your phone. Go into your barber or stylist and be like, hey, this is what I want. Can you do this? If they're like, oh, sick, I got that, no problem, then, dude, you're locked in. But if they're like, ooh, I don't know, then that should be a warning sign that maybe you might have to try somebody else or it might not be a good fit, or they might say it's not really going to be a good look for you. I would trust them initially, but that's the one thing is you can bring in photos or show videos. The amount of people that show my videos to other stylists and barbers that I hear is just absurd, So those are some of the probably biggest tips I would say is just be clear with what you want. If you get a bad haircut, don't go back to that person, honestly, if it's really that bad. Another thing that I've learned is do research on the place you want to go to. Now, obviously, there's chain salons, and there's a lot of chain salons that are known for being more of the butchers than anything else. When you're paying anywhere from like $6 to $12 for a haircut, and the haircut time is supposed to be set to like 12 minutes. I mean, you can get lucky and get a good haircut, and good for you if you do, but I've done reconstructive surgery on somebody's haircuts. You know what I mean? So just do research before you go into a place cold and realizing if someone's spending 12 minutes on my hair and you're that into your hair, it may not be a good fit. It's like being a diehard sushi guy and you go to like a sushi place where it's real sketchy. You're like, well, I'm probably not going to get the best sushi. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So match up to what your needs are. Match that up to what you end up getting.
So last question here. I think this is probably a tough question because it's probably not a universal answer. But I know you like the overall just kind of talking with celebrities and, following celebrities and kind of like their hairstyle and all that. So there are just maybe a short list of like male celebrities. And I know there's different hair types who people would want to emulate. It's hard to, say one person. So just for some different hair types, some people that people should look towards to maybe get some inspiration from, who would you maybe have them turn to?
You've got guys like The Rock, Vin Diesel. No, I'm just kidding. No. Shaved heads.
Is that who you look up to?
No. Those are the ultimate hair guys right there. Say a guy like David Beckham, right? Everybody worships Beckham's hair. He's got that hair type, and I have clients that literally have like the exact hair type. He's got the hair type that you can pretty much do any style with, right? So if you have a finer texture hair, but you have a lot of hair, mostly blondes have this advantage. You can really do anything, any hairstyle with that type of hair. It's straight, you can mold it, you can shape it. Beckham is a great example of doing anything with your hair. Brad Pitt, he's another perfect example. He's got that hair type where you can literally do, anything with it. Then you get a guy like McConaughey, who I've seen where the longer his hair gets, it starts to get a little bit curly. And sometimes what he did is he started to embrace the curl. So he'd have his hair slick back a little bit, and you would see in the back, he would have some of his natural curl. So if you have a hair type like that, then I'd say, I say go with it. You've got guys like Cristiano Ronaldo, who I get a lot of, requests for as a soccer player. Like, he's got an interesting hair type. I wouldn't say the easiest to work with, but he always does very, very edgy type stuff. Bradley Cooper, he's another one who's like, he's got pretty good hair. Anyone who's got like Ben Affleck is another one. Tom Cruise is a big one. If you see these guys, it's like they're not human. They all have. You have the celebrity type hair. You know what I mean? Like you've got that type of hair. So you can easily be one of those. You fall in that category too. I think just seeing how they all kind of do their hair, even like Alec Baldwin. Like I've been with him, and it's just like he's rocking that little spike in the front. He's got like fairly normal hair, but he works his hair pretty well too. He's got like a little bit of a textured look. So it depends on the age, depends on what you're looking for. A lot of guys do like the hairstyles of people on TV shows, singers, sports players. That's where really all the attention comes from. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of like who you're kind of into and what hair type you have. Because a lot of people want to look like so and so. You have to say, I'm sorry to break it to you, man. You're not going to be the next Brad Pitt. You know what I mean?
And you need a barber. You need a barber or hairstylist that's going to tell you that too. That's important, I think.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Steven, I mean, we've been at it for a good amount. I'm having fun. We need to do this again. One actually last question. If I do come to New Jersey, will you cut my hair?
Oh, bro, I got you.
Fantastic.
I got you 100%. And I just want to leave on one note if I can.
Absolutely.
For whoever's watching this, if you have that mindset of being an entrepreneur or you want to do something, there's a few different things you need to really understand. Is one, everyone talks about being passionate, right? Being passionate is amazing, but your passion may not always necessarily translate into making a living from it or turning it into a business. So Crush It was like how to turn your passion into a business. You can have 8 million passions, but you have to be realistic with what can you actually do out of those passions that you can make a living from and turn into a tangible business. I'm a golfer. I like to play golf and stuff like that, but I'm not the next Tiger Woods, or I'm not playing for the PGA Tour. I like video games. I'm a huge gamer. I'm not going to be like the next PewDiePie. I mean, I could if I want, but I'm not going to be doing, competing in COD events. Okay, well, that's cool. But like, what is it that I'm really, truly passionate about, but I can actually make a living off of and make money from? That's what a lot of people don't talk about, is separating the passion from being realistic with what you can do. And at the end of the day, you have to pay rent, you have to pay your bills, you have to support a family. Whatever you got to do to live, that's the most important thing. What can you do to actually survive? When you have to pay $3,000 a month or $10,000 a month to survive, whatever the hell it is, that is what you need to know. What can you do that's going to bring in that amount of money if you want to go all in on being an entrepreneur? Now, it's cool to have this side hustle like this. You work at Starbucks all day, or you work at like whatever it is you do, during the day, that's cool. If you can come home and do stuff like this, but then you have to realize there's something that's going to catch up to you is time. After a year and a half of doing something like, say, this show or whatever it is that somebody might be doing on the side, you eventually may get sick of doing it because there's no money. That's why you have to start to think about it, and there will be a time where everyone starts to think about money. You will get frustrated. You will say, I've been doing this for 8 months, and I'm getting sick of this, and what do I do? You're going to start to question it. That's why from the very, very beginning, you need to know what you can do to set yourself down a path where you can actually be passionate, be honest about what you're doing, be realistic with what you're doing, and actually make a living from it. That's like an MBA right there, dude. That's like, you know what I mean? And not a lot of people talk about the money side of it, like, and being upfront with it.
It's real. Yep. It's real. And we glamorize entrepreneurship so much. So, I mean, I think that needs to be said. And that's the mentality that I have too. Like, when I'm doing this, I mean, I'm interested in so many things. It was so hard for me as a college student to determine what path do I want to go down? Because, you're trying to identify passion, and you're not really trying to identify an outcome that you could pursue that might actually be a sustained life for yourself where you could feel fulfilled. So, I mean, that's kind of why I'm really happy about, fashion. Because in fashion, lifestyle, like even, men's hair, I think this is all cool to me. And I think, as time will be a huge asset for me as I continue to go with it. So I think I'm in the right avenue for once. And it's really cool to be able to say that. I think you are too.
That's awesome. It's freaking awesome. And like I said, but now how many lifestyle guys are there on YouTube? How many fashion guys are there on YouTube? There's a lot of heavy hitters that have made names for themselves. But what you're doing, I can tell you right now, you're the first I've ever seen do something like this. None of those guys who are sitting there up against the wall doing the outfits of the day 15 times a day, looking around like this, filming themselves. No one asked me to ever have. No one had a little, a show like this or a channel about talking to people. So that's one thing you have the one advantage of is you're actually doing something. You're interviewing people. You're getting knowledge. I don't know what other people you've interviewed, what kind of entrepreneurs you've got on, or the level of who you've gotten. But I'm psyched that you asked me, and I have no ego whatsoever, dude. I'm just like a laid back dude. I'm a hardworking guy. But I have some serious credentials that I feel proud about. And I think if Gary Vaynerchuk wants to put me in his damn book, I think I have a few good things to say, So, I feel excited that I can share this stuff with you, man. And I hope if there's something that people can get away, even if they, leave comments or whatever, I love to see people leaving comments about, dude, Steven was like, I love Steven, or I don't want to see his bald head ever again. I love interaction with people. You know what I mean? I love
it.
Yeah. So please leave some comments.
Awesome. So guys, Steven the Salon Guy, check out his YouTube channel. He's been doing this for years. He knows his stuff. And I just want to thank him again for joining us today. Steven, we have to do it again soon.
Yes, thanks for having me on, and best of luck with growing this audience, and I'll definitely see you soon, man.
Thank you so much, Steven. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. Also hit that bell icon. We talk fashion, watches, men's lifestyle, and everything in between on this channel. In addition to that, be sure to go give some love to the Salon Guy. Check out his YouTube channel. He has over 1,000 videos on his channel surrounding the world of men's hairstyling and women's hairstyling. In addition, he has a fantastic product line that you guys should go check out as well. Also, leave comments down below. Love to hear your guys' feedback. I want to continue to do these interviews, but I also want to improve them and make them better with each and every one. So I'd love to hear what you guys think, what I should do to improve. Really would appreciate it. So guys, until next time, be well, and I will see you all very soon.